Political parties in Parliament agree that Finance Minister Moody Gigaba will have an unenviable task when he delivers the budget today. Gigaba will deliver his first budget speech amid a growing budget deficit and a slow economic growth. He'll have to strike a delicate balance between government spending priorities and the increasing budget deficit, especially with the shortfall estimated at around 50 billion rand. Speculation is rife that personal income tax and value-added tax may be hiked. Economists say that rating agencies and the markets will not only be looking at fiscal consolidation, but also at excessive tax hikes that are likely to have a negative impact on growth. Meanwhile, the EFF says it will boycott today's budget speech unless President Ramaphosa removes Gigaba as finance minister with immediate effect. So plans to grow the economy, committing to fiscal consolidation and announcing concrete plans for clean governance in state-owned enterprises will also likely top the agenda in the budget speech today. The finance minister will have to appease rating agencies. Moody's is expected to review the country following the budget, and experts say that while a downgrade remains a possibility, the recent changes on the political front could work in the country's favour.
Yes.
Economists say the budget will need to convey a message of determination to stick to the fiscal consolidation path. This follows concerns that the midterm budget policy statement seemed to have steered away from it. Government will also have to make clear plans for improved governance at state-owned enterprises to ensure they are self-sufficient and would not further drain the fiscus. Economic growth and employment creation should also be top of the agenda.
With the emphasis that Mr. Ramaphosa made in his State of the Nation address, that we had to move towards better sovereign ratings, that we had to get the sovereign rating agencies to understand that we were serious about change, and that change was, call it a level of responsibility, that we were going to be welcomed back into the international field, the international arena, for being able to get funding under our own name and not have to go cap in hand to the IMF or a similar institution and ask for preferred status. I think that we're going to change the basis on which this budget is based, and that will be good for South Africa in the long run. But I'm quite sure in the short term there may be some discomfort. I've no doubt about that, because we're short of revenue.
Government will have to address the 51 billion rand revenue shortfall. It will have to look at finding efficiency in service delivery, expenditure cuts, and may possibly increase the value-added tax, or an increase in the fuel levy, which may lead to an increase in the price of petrol and transportation costs.
The budget will be defined by corrective steps, and by corrective steps what we refer to quite simply is revenue underperformance in the vicinity of 51 billion rand will require remediation, and that remediation will incorporate some element of expenditure cuts, probably around 25 billion rand of expenditure that was forecasted, say, in October of last year, and quite possibly an additional 30 billion rand of new tax measures, so as to, as I suggest, narrow the fiscal cleavage.
Phasing in fee-free tertiary education for first-year students from families earning lower than 350,000 rand will put a bit of pressure on the fiscus.
The emphasis was on first-year students only. In other words, it's not a general general free education being funded at the moment. The cost thereof will be far lighter than providing general free tertiary education, which was the intimation in Zuma's original announcement. And this coincides with Ramaphosa's suggestion a few weeks ago that the funding for free tertiary education is going to be phased in rather than introduced immediately. Yes, it will cost a few billion rand, but not to the terrifying extent that a general free education for tertiary students would have had.
Some Johannesburg residents seem to be more concerned on the budget outcomes for poverty alleviation, job creation and education.
The government should invest more on education, because we're paying a lot of money on our fees, and some parents aren't working, so if it would invest more on education, it would make the world a better place.
When I look at our age to youngsters, I think it should just go to youth strategy is to help those ones who have got some dreams to achieve, but they don't have somebody to back them up.
Most importantly, I think it's on like jobs also, because there's people like the unemployment rate is like growing.
Economists say it is likely the Treasury will revise economic growth projections upwards following political leadership changes, which seem to have been welcomed by the markets. SABC News, Johannesburg.